Oh, the joys of lost media. Things that at one point were going to exist, maybe even looked pretty cool, but were inevitably cancelled before seeing the light of day, with the only things remaining being breadcrumbs of what could have been. With Power Rangers being no exception to the lost media curse. So join me as we check out cancelled movies, original scripts and concepts for episodes, lost adaptations, and whatever else we can find on this journey through Power Rangers Lost Media. The most infamous lost media thing has to be the original pilot for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Now, of course, we can't really call this lost considering, well, it's right here before your very eyes, and Saban did air it as a Fox Kids special, literally titled The Lost Episode. But at one point before the internet was able to archive things, it was lost, and the only way you'd see it is if Fox Kids played a rerun. And I still think this is worth talking about. The special was aired on May 22nd, 1999, and hosted by Austin St. John and Walter Jones. This would also be Walter's only Power Rangers appearance after initially leaving the show in 1994, and he wouldn't return to the franchise until 2023. Right off the bat, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers clearly had a more edgy vision. Instead of hanging out at the juice bar and learning karate or helping out the community, the teens are at a bowling alley and come off like regular teenagers. They get interrupted by a gang of bullies, with Bulk just being some random goon, while also looking like that. What's funny is that the Rangers immediately resort to violence, punching first and asking questions later, a bit different from what we'd eventually get with the teenagers with attitude. You'll also notice that Trini looks a little bit different. She was played by Audrey Dubois here until being replaced with Tui Trang. The rest of the plot follows the show. Rita's space dumpster has been opened, and Zoltar needs to gather a team of heroes to fight. Zoltar lacks a bit of aura in both his face and voice.
An unbeliever.
He gives the Rangers their transmorphers and they leave the command center. They get jumped by the putties and put up a fight. But they're not strong enough. So
use the transmorphers, now!
That sure was a morphing sequence. Although, I gotta give them credit here, they clearly nailed the rest of the show. The music, fights, and even in this rough draft of Power Rangers, they knew what the real moneymaker was. So, yeah, that was the original Day of the Dumpster. Not too far off from what the show would eventually become, just needed a few tweaks here and there. However, this wasn't Saban's first attempt at creating, quote-unquote, Power Rangers. In 1986, Saban tried to make this exact kind of show with Bioman, this time adapting the Super Sentai season, Bioman. I guess that makes it pretty easy. The story goes that in 1986, Saban took a trip to Japan and saw Bioman on TV in his hotel room. He was immediately fascinated by the multicolored heroes fighting rubber-suited monsters. Seeing the potential of having a show like this for American audiences, Saban then successfully created an episode of Bioman. Not to be confused with Bioman. For years, no footage could be found though. However, recently some clips have popped up on the internet, and it's painfully cheesy. Like, you think Mighty Morphin is cheesy, Bioman will make you lactose intolerant.
I'm closing in on a group of Far East terrorists. Terrorists! Yeah, that's right, terrorists.
What's cool is that the characters are named Zach Taylor, Kimberly Hart, Billy Cranston, and Trini. The plot is about 5 kids with identical biorhythms who defend Earth against Zatar's attacks. An evil half-human, half-robot villain who wants to conquer the world. I really wish this saw the light of day. You just know it would have been filled with gems people would still be talking about to this day. The show, however, was never picked up for multiple reasons, mainly being that as the years went on, Bioman just looked too outdated and old, not exactly exciting for the 90s. But Saban just used the Bioman pilot as a proof of concept. He ultimately wanted to upgrade the Sentai to Zyuranger and make a new show. However, again, due to the actors and Bioman being in the Actors Guild, this would have caused some problems. I'm not sure of the exact intricacies of SAG, but it sounds like typical Saban trying to screw over actors. Saban would rework the Bioman pilot into a new show called Galaxy Rangers, still using the human footage from the pilot, but mainly utilizing voiceover and Zyuranger footage, in hopes this would better convey to the networks of what Galaxy Rangers could really be.
Zoltar and Alpha give them the coins of power, and they become the Dino Rangers.
Dino Rangers! The Red Ranger in the Bioman pilot was played by Mark Dacascos. He's an action star legend, still killing it today, being the villain in John Wick 3. He did an interview where he talked about Bioman and why it never came to be. And I quote, "Nobody was, I guess, brave enough to take a chance on it."
Oh, I was excited. It was fun. I'd never seen anything like that myself before. We had these special powers. We had these really cool suits, and like in Double Dragon, I got the red one.
He seemingly had positive things to say about his experience and looks back upon it fondly. And the actor who played Zack, Miguel Nunez Jr., claims he has the full pilot buried somewhere in a storage unit. Eventually, Fox Kids would give in and Power Rangers would be born. It took Saban almost 10 years of pestering the networks to let them make his show.
5 courageous, crazy kids out to save the world.
However, the head of Fox Kids at the time, Margaret Loesch, noticed the similarities between Saban's show idea and Stan Lee's. Yes, Marvel's Stan Lee. You see, before Saban created Bioman and had this idea of adapting Japanese tokusatsu shows, Stan Lee was the original visionary. In the 1970s, Marvel Comics actually struck a deal with Toei. He lent over some of Marvel's properties, and in return, Toei would do the same with 3 Super Sentai teams. The result of this would lead to Toei creating the infamous Spider-Man TV series. I'm sure you've seen clips of this on the internet somewhere, they're infamous. And in return, Stan Lee would have access to Battle Fever J, Denji Man, and Sun Vulcan. However, due to the Spider-Man TV show being a total failure and flop, the deal didn't go any further. I'm not too sure of the behind-the-scenes situations. Apparently, since Stan Lee was given 3 Sentai properties, Toei wanted another Marvel one to try another show. However, since Spider-Man failed so hard, Stan Lee was hesitant to give them more. So the deal just eventually expired. The only existing media about this exists in the form of newspaper articles. It doesn't really explain much, more so just the excitement between the Marvel and Toei partnership, just PR nonsense. The only interesting piece of information here is that Marvel's version of Sun Vulcan was simply just gonna be a redub of the Sentai, as opposed to the Power Rangers formula of casting American actors and creating a show around said Sentai. For the time, this wouldn't have been an awful choice. The 70s loved Bruce Lee and just dubbing Chinese kung fu movies, so it's possible that Marvel Super Sentai could have been a huge hit. Honestly, I wish this deal would have worked out. Marvel is ultimately a comic book company, so there is a universe out there where Captain America is fighting alongside the Power Rangers. And there is a universe out there where you're watching Endgame in the theaters, and when Doctor Strange opens up all those portals, there they are. Turbo, a Power Rangers movie. It's not my favorite movie by any means. Even as a kid, I kinda hated it and thought it was boring. However, if you're someone like me, there's good news. Apparently, the Turbo movie was actually cut down pretty heavily, with the original cut of the movie being over 3 hours, which for a kid's movie is a death sentence, naturally leading to many cut scenes, most of which have never been seen in movie form. However, some screenshots do exist. For example, there was a scene with Tommy and Kat fighting a crocodile with a flamethrower while trying to save Larago. A frame of this exact scene actually exists on the back of the VHS, as well as a strip of the comic that was released alongside the movie. This cut of the movie already sounds worse. Like, a flamethrower versus a wild animal isn't exciting in a movie and series that has giant robots fighting giant monsters. There was a cut bungee jumping scene with Adam because Adam is never allowed to do anything. There was more character development for Justin, a longer trek through the volcano when the Rangers first used their turbo powers. There's no information outside of that though, so it's possible these are just scenes with the characters literally just walking through a volcano, with of course some screenshots to go along with them. There was a cut character named Mandika the Mermaid, because that's what this movie needed, more stupid fantasy characters. She apparently would have been pretty vital to the plot, helping the Rangers, saving Kimberly after she leaves Divatox's submarine, and of course, act as a love interest for Adam. But as we established, Adam is never allowed to do anything. The most interesting cut content though comes in the form of the Zeo powers. In the final cut, we only see Kat morph into them for like 2 seconds before just never being brought up again. Apparently, the Rangers were supposed to fight Divatox's forces with their Zeo powers, but they would be badly damaged and Billy would need to rework them into the Turbo ones. But since David Yost left the show due to gross harassment, they needed to rework that plot. AKA, just create new powers and say, here you go. A part of the rewritten script also had Adam and Tanya needing to save Kimberly after hearing she was abducted. They would fight Divatox's army underwater, but would ultimately fail, having their Zeo powers destroyed in the process and needing to be saved by Mandika the Mermaid. Outside of the Zeo powers, I think none of these cutscenes would have added to the movie. It's all honestly the worst of the Turbo movie in my opinion. Random fantasy characters that don't mean anything in the show, pointless Hollywood action like fighting an alligator as opposed to the fun fantasy action we came to see with a Power Rangers movie. Justin doesn't need any character development since we have an entire TV show to do that with. But all of that being said though, it still is interesting stuff and would probably be really cool to see. As it stands though, this is all we got.
Turbo, a Power Rangers movie.
While still on the topic of Power Rangers movies, let's quickly talk about the Mighty Morphin movie. This originally had a different woman playing Dulcia, Mariska Hargitay, most infamous for being in Law and Order. However, she was just eventually replaced. Anyway, sticking with Power Rangers movies brings us to Power Rangers Origins, a full-on CGI Power Rangers animated movie, developed by Saban and to be animated by ZAG Entertainment, most famous for animating the cartoon Miraculous Ladybug. And you can definitely see that style and influence in the promo artwork and teaser. It's not exactly stated when this movie started production. However, in 2014, a movie poster with Billy was placed in the background of the Miraculous Ladybug Licensing Expo trailer. The only known footage to exist is in the form of a trailer. However, it's super low quality, but it's better than nothing. It looks like it had a lot of promise, tons of fluid motion, action, and giving the Power Rangers that sense of grandioseness. While also mixing in some humor.
Check out our new look. So, do you like it?
The higher quality screenshots and artwork though leads me to believe this movie was pretty far into development before being cancelled. The art direction is really sleek. I love that the Rangers have a more slender build. They still have muscles for the action figures, but the slender bodies allow for more dynamic and fluid movements that I associate with Power Rangers. The Zords also got an update, still being the traditional 5 dinosaurs, but now having a bit more of a robotic and modern design. When combined to create the Dino Zord, it also has some pretty big Voltron inspirations, mainly with the multiple variations of the wings on the back. I like it. Eventually though, almost every piece of information involving this movie would be released. I've been showing off some of the higher quality image, but there's tons of concept art and promo work that's really a sight to behold. I mean, look at this mastodon. I never thought this thing could look genuinely horrifying. What would also eventually get leaked though were the characters and seemingly the entire plot of the movie. The movie would naturally have Jason, Billy, Trini, Zach, and Kimberly. Everyone's character traits would pretty much be the same of that in the TV show. Jason was the strong leader, but now had your typical 2010 swoopy hair. Billy was the insecure but intelligent nerd. Trini was smart and could kick your butt. But Kimberly and Zach had some differences. Kimberly was still the popular girl, but she was rich and materialistic. But when she went home, you'd realize that she had nobody. No real friends. Only rich and shallow ones who liked her because she had money. Apparently her character arc throughout the movie would have her learning what true friendship is really about. Zach though definitely was the most different from his TV show counterpart. Here he was the son of a rich senator, and while he was still charismatic, he apparently would believe that respect needed to be given to him, and this movie would have him learning that respect is earned. They'd of course all have weapons and special abilities. You can kind of see in these images how they'd summon their dinosaur spirit in combat. Like, Kimberly is doing this aerial attack with a pterodactyl silhouette. That's awesome. So, what's the plot of the movie? I'll just read this verbatim. Prologue. Somewhere in the universe, 5 strange characters explore an unknown planet and free the intergalactic witch, Rita Repulsa, thirsty for revenge after 10,000 years of confinement. On Earth, in the Angel Grove Desert, the wise Zordon and his faithful robot Alpha 5 discover that Rita has escaped and the planet is now in danger. Zordon, trapped in a parallel dimension, can only communicate using his holographic computer. Act 1. Zordon sends Alpha 5 into the city in search of 5 teenagers capable of activating the powers of the Zordosphere, a parallel dimension built by Zordon. We see Alpha 5 camouflaged with various costumes, as a child, in a garbage can, etc., in different scenes that introduce us to the 5 protagonists and their personality traits. After several failed attempts, Alpha 5 and Zordon manage to convince Jason, Zack, Kimberly, Trini, and Billy to become the new defenders of the planet. Act 2. Rita sends down her henchmen to surprise attack the 5 young people in the cafeteria. Alpha 5 comes to their rescue and gives them their holo bracelets that allow them to teleport to Zordon's secret base in the shape of a spaceship. The 5 teenagers begin training with Zordon's advanced technology. Each receives their corresponding power suit, weapon Zord, Zord Hover, and Zord. Their personalities resemble those of their owners and behave like their pets. We see Billy throwing a ball with his Triceratops Zord and picking it up like a dog. These Ranger rookies must face Rita's monsters, but their differences between them make cooperation difficult. Even Zordon doubts whether they'll be able to work as a team. As Power Rangers, they must master the psychomaterialization, the technology between magic and science that allows them to access their suits. The parents of the protagonists begin to observe their strange behaviors in their children, but they just attribute that to them being teenagers, leading to very funny scenes. After their first victory, the Rangers become celebrities. The whole world knows the Power Rangers, and fame begins to rise to their heads, raising concern in Zordon, who fears they are letting their guard down. The vanity of the Rangers leads them to their greatest defeat yet, that causes them to lose self-confidence and be criticized by the media. It's a disaster. Act 3. The team falls apart. Billy is kidnapped by Rita and taken to her fortress on the moon, and Zordon's secret base is severely damaged. The Rangers' morale is at rock bottom, and the pressure to hide their secret identities from their families is beginning to cause complications. Jason takes on the role of leader, assembling the team to reactivate the base's computer and regain communication with Zordon. Together, they devise a plan to rescue Billy, and little by little, they regain motivation. Meanwhile, Rita creates the ultimate weapon, a mega monster made up of all the evil souls in the galaxy. Act 4. Alpha 5 activates the power shuttle, and the Rangers are heading at full speed towards the moon. They attack Rita's fortress by surprise, rescuing Billy and gaining a new ally, a small henchman of Rita. The Rangers return to Earth united and safe, but Rita's henchmen pursue them. An epic aerial battle takes place that culminates on the ground. Rita loses control of the mega monster and is absorbed by it. The creature destroys everything in its path and heads towards Earth. The Power Rangers summon their Zords and manage to unite their souls to form the Megazord. This 50-meter tall robot can only be used for a limited time of 10 minutes though, as the amount of energy it requires could implode the Zordosphere. The Rangers are victorious, but lose Zordon in the process, as he must use all of his strength to save his apprentices. Epilogue. Peace returns to Earth. The 5 heroes have become inseparable. Rita wakes up in an infernal dimension, accompanied by her lieutenant. This is not over. In the final scene, the Rangers' base's computer picks up a weak signal that Zordon is still alive. Yeah man, this sounds like an awesome movie, and I wish it saw the light of day. Apparently though, it got shelved in favor for the live-action 2017 movie, which I'm not personally a big fan of. I do wish someday, some way, and somehow, this movie gets to see the light of day. Unfortunately though, this wouldn't be the only Power Rangers project to get canned as well. In 2009, when Disney still owned the franchise, they commissioned an animated pilot for Disney XD. You know, the cool and extreme side of Disney. Not much is known about the project though. Some sources say this was for a TV show, others say it was for a movie. Ron Wasserman has even spoken on it, saying he had a friend work on the promotional material for it. The animation studio who made this pitch went by the name of Nerdcore. The video you're seeing now isn't meant to be the final design or art style of the product. The video has no music and uses Ed, Edd n Eddy's stock sound effects. It is a unique art direction. If you grew up in the 2000s, this really looks like an Esurance commercial more than anything. Because of that, I could understand why Disney might pass this up. Again, yes, this is just a pitch for a proof of concept, but Disney ultimately just passed on the project entirely. However, the animation company would eventually work on another project, Cartoon Network Hot Wheels Battle Force 5, which in and of itself is a Power Rangers clone. So, in a way, they eventually got to make their show. While still on the topic of unused Disney stuff, Power Rangers RPM, the Power Rangers season that was dark and gritty. Despite that, it had somewhat of a happy ending. However, the original ending was much darker, with an episode called Ranger Black. In this ending, Dylan was supposedly revealed to be a cyborg sleeper agent created by Venjix to infiltrate and gain the trust of the Rangers, and would later be Venjix's final body. All of his human memories, along with his human existence and Tanaya being his sister, were fake, created by Venjix in order to lure the Rangers into trusting him. The season would have ended with the Rangers forced to destroy Dylan to defeat Venjix once and for all. Yeah, that would have been a much different direction for a Power Rangers ending. Having the entire season with the main character be 100% nothing. A total red herring. Alright, now it's time to check out some lost episodes. Now, the best way I figured to do this was that I came across a website here, an article, Den of Geek, an article written by Seamus Kelly. They have graciously combined just a bunch of lost episodes, be it from writers at conventions, or interviews, or just posting on social media. They've all been compiled here, so shout outs to them and shout outs to this website, and we're just gonna read through it. I feel like that's the best way to do it, and just kind of get our thoughts out there and see what we missed out on. See if we're really missing out on some real Power Rangers gold that never came to be. Alright, first one here is Yo Ho Ho and a Bottle of Rangers for Mighty Morphin Season 2, written by Tony Oliver. They put it in the the style of the announcer. Today on Power Rangers, the kids take a tour of Australia. Today we're going to learn about how Australia got its start and how sailing ships playing a part in its history. Kimberly, I've got to get some pictures of this. But Zed and Rita send a magical bottle to trap the Rangers on board the ship.
By the time Zordon figures out how to release them, it will be too late to save the world from our grip.
Can the Rangers escape the ship in time to save the city? Find out next on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Iconic. So let's see. In a more traditional summary, the Rangers are still on their trip to Australia that began in the beginning of the wedding, as the Rangers got a lesson in history of Australia. Very sanitized, of course. Rita and Zed plan to trap the Rangers in an energy field on the ship that will make them fall asleep. A group of putties attack the ship and attempt to get the bottle open to unleash the spell, but fail. It's only when Bulk and Skull discover it does the whole boat fall asleep, except for Adam and Billy, who were below deck. Billy was giving a lot of historical facts about Australia, because of course Billy was, but the two go back on deck and try to wake their friends. This is accomplished by combining their powers of their team's communication with the reserve power in one of the morphers. During this, Goldar is sent to attack the city along with a generic monster that isn't named. Once Billy and Adam manage to wake the Rangers up, the teams get their Zords and make short work of the monsters. They return to the boat, undo the bottle's effects, and continue on with their trip. It sounds like how I summarize the episodes in my videos. So that's it. Why it didn't get made. When the cast had to fly down to Australia to shoot the movie, they also ended up having to shoot the episodes of the TV series there after filming on the movie after the movie ran over schedule. Yo Ho Ho and a Bottle of Rangers was planned to be the 4th episode shot there, according to supervising producer Tony Oliver in a 2011 panel at Otakon, which is linked right here. He then elaborated on why the episode didn't get made. I rented a tall ship and we were going to go out into the Sydney Harbor, but we got rained out. Simple as that. It's more than likely they didn't have the time to remount the episode since the cast was still filming the movie. However, Oliver says scrapping the episode did have one upside. I bought 50 lunches for the crew, so we took it to an AIDS hospice, so the guys there ate really well that day. Alright, well you know what? It worked out for everyone. Shout outs to helping out the Australian AIDS hospice. As for the episode itself, this sounds like any season 2 episode. At the very least, it would have given Adam something to do, because as we covered, Adam is never allowed to do anything, so this kind of tracks. Next episode is another season 2 episode, Party Crasher, written by Daniel J. Sarnoff and Ellen Levy Sarnoff. Alright, so the story. Aisha's parents are heading out for the day and allow her to have a small party with the other Rangers, as long as she doesn't damage her mom's precious antique vase. Bulk and Skull get wind of the party and decide to invite the entire school, planning to show up as monsters so the Power Rangers will make an appearance. Zed turns the vase into a monster. Party Crasher. Very unique. And it leaves Aisha's house just before Bulk and Skull show up along with all the teens in the city. The Rangers morph and attempt to stop Party Crasher, but Rocky, Adam, Kimberly, and Billy are all trapped in the vase and can't try to escape for fear of shattering it. With some advice from Zordon, Tommy and Aisha fight back and manage to free the other Rangers. They make quick work of Party Crasher in the Megazord. When the Rangers get back to the house with the vase, everyone but Bulk and Skull are gone and the place is a mess. The two leave after they see only those geekoids ever showed up. Aisha's parents are about to pull up, and somehow the team is able to clean the whole house, and get out before they come in. Aisha greets them, but her father accidentally shatters the vase. Classic. I love the little subplot right here of, where is it? The Rangers don't fight because they don't want to break the vase and get Aisha in trouble. So I guess we have to let it destroy the city. Again, sounds fine enough. You could replace it with any Season 2 episode. Why didn't it get made? Here we go. When filming on MMPR the movie, ran over several months. Oh, is this the same thing? Several scripts meant to be shot in America ended up not getting made, including this one. Party Crasher was supposed to be the first episode shot post-movie, but for reasons that aren't quite clear, it was moved back in production order. Instead, Storybook Rangers took its original production number, and while plans were made to eventually film it, soon it was canceled altogether. Yeah, again, it sounds like a fine enough episode, but ultimately, the same old, same old. Alright, up next is Zordon, I Shrunk the Rangers Part 1 and 2, written by Shuki Levy and Shel Danielson. Part 1. It's Feed the Hungry week, and the Rangers are sponsoring a dinner at Ernie's while Billy and Aisha work on growing ray to make food larger. Okay, I'm sorry, that was a sentence I wasn't able to fully put together. Zed and Rita plan to steal the device and reverse it so it can shrink the Rangers, but Bulk and Skull get to it first. Goldar and Scorpina are sent down to steal the device, but end up growing the normal way. The Rangers make quick work of them and go to the dinner, but Billy realizes the device is still in the park. He, Rocky, and Aisha go to the park, but Finster has already gotten to the device and shrinks them. End of Part 1. Part 2. Goldar and Finster search for the Tiny Rangers as Alpha works on a way to protect the others from being shrunk as well. They teleport to the park and fight Goldar, who threatens the Tiny Rangers by stomping everywhere. The Tiny Rangers manage to escape on a skateboard, which Tommy also uses in a battle with the regurgitated Nimrod, AC, and DC. The Tiny Rangers are saved and grown back to normal size, but once again, Bulk and Skull get a hold of the device and shrink themselves. The Rangers now have to save them and fight Nimrod and her clones. Oh, there was a Part 3 that... I guess that would make sense. Bulk and Skull, you gotta save them too. Sadly, no copies of Part 3 are available. Once again, why didn't it get made? Like the previous script, this was another one that was canned after the movie filming ran too long. As a multi-parter, it sounds kind of interesting. The fact that, like, this is kind of the episode synopsis and it has to fill, a 30-minute time slot, there doesn't seem like much going on here. So, I can't say I'm really too, heartbroken again. It doesn't sound like, oh, that would have been a huge, huge thing. The movie apparently was the only reason some episodes didn't get made. Ooh, alright, now we have a Turbo episode, Rangers in Concert, written by Colleen White. Background. Okay, this one needs a bit of a primer before we start, since some of the names are different than you might recognize. Carlos is the same, but with a different last name of Chavez, but the character of Missy would later become Ashley. Confusingly then, the Ashley in this script is actually Jenny, Lieutenant Stone's niece from the Turbo episode Cars Attacks. Michael is a very early version of TJ. Okay, so the story. Tanya is giving away tickets. Never mind, Tanya's here. Tanya is giving away tickets to the band The Roaches in concert over the radio and is introduced to their newest intern, Michael. Is Michael anybody? I don't think Michael's anybody. Diva Talks reveals to Algar she bought tickets early and plans to lure the Rangers and their friends to the show. Missy, Ashley, runs into the juice bar saying she won free tickets. Tommy would love to win some, and Ashley, who's Lieutenant Stone's niece mentions he just might, since Lieutenant Stone is putting on a sing-along and the grand prize is, of course, Roach's tickets. Bulk and Skull still monkeys plan to enter the contest in hopes their great singing will let everyone know they're really humans. Carlos and Adam try to get to a phone to win more Roach's tickets, but a random man nearly beats them to it, until Divatox sends Piranatrons to stop him. Adam is suspicious and teleports to the power chamber to tell Demetria about what just happened. Justin and Alpha 6 work on trying to retrieve that message from the Blue Centurion. Back at the juice bar, Lieutenant Stone's niece has also won a ticket to the concert as Bulk and Skull sing terribly. Tanya and Michael leave the radio station but are unknowingly confronted by the Rockin' Roach, a Divatox monster, but they think he's just a promoter. He gives them both tickets and vanishes. He reappears as Tommy and Kat are attacked by Piranatrons and slips some tickets into Tommy's car. After that battle, Tommy finds the tickets and thinks Kat gave it to him before he notices the Rockin' Roaches disappear. You know, to further the very important Tommy and Kat love story that everyone loves so much. The Rangers all meet back at the command center and deduce it's too big of a coincidence that everyone got free tickets. They scan the concert area for detonators and find it right away. Oh, they find it right near Ashley, Lieutenant Stone's niece, Carlos, and Michael. They morph and rush to save them, but Rockin' Roach grows. Tommy deals with the detonator while the other Rangers and Blue Centurion head for the Zords. Tommy makes quick work of it and joins the team in battle, successfully defeating Rockin' Roach. Divatox is furious and sends Rygog to take out the teens at the concert. Ashley, What's-Her-Face, Carlos, and Michael hold their own, but are ultimately saved by the unmorphed Rangers. Divatox watches them and declares there will be no future for the Power Rangers. The Rangers and the other teens are at the juice bar, and who walks in but the Roaches? They're bummed they had to miss the gig because of the monster, but the Lieutenant Stone's daughter says she can help them out. The Roaches perform, but the Rangers are called to the command center. Alpha 6 has finally gotten Blue Centurion's message to play. And it's the same thing from the Millennium message. But now we see it all. The faces of the future Rangers are revealed. This one actually sounds like the first episode I wish was kind of in the show. Because there were obviously seeds to be planted. You had to have Carlos, Ashley, Cassie, and TJ show up. And there are a couple of episodes that have them interacting with the crew. But you needed some more. Right, I think you needed a little bit more to make me be like, oh, they should become the new Rangers. And where was it? It sounds like there was a part here where, Carlos and Ashley saved the Rangers unmorphed, or I think maybe I misread that. But this one seems like a very good idea. This is one that actually should have been made. Why it didn't get made. Producers Doug Sloan and Ann Austin left Power Rangers Turbo after Honey, I Shrunk the Rangers Part 1, the episodes that never existed. And a mostly new writing staff was brought in. Since the episode was building off of plot lines Doug and Ann had started earlier in the season, it was scrapped in favor of new story arcs. New story arcs that I can't really remember that would have been anything. I don't know. Let's see. Also, the script has an incredible callback to Power Rangers Zeo, when Tommy mentions singing isn't my thing. So there you go, callbacks. This is the true writing of Power Rangers. Let's see, we got some other stuff here. Some fun facts. Rockin' Roach is an adaptation of Car Rangers monster Gigi Goki-chan, and his suit was taken from his appearance. Very interesting. Oh, okay, so this is something that I've been hoping would pop up. Forging a Friendship. So the background for this one, this is the Power Rangers Lost Galaxy episode after Kendricks dies. For those of you who don't know, quick recap. Valerie Vernon, the actress for Kendricks, had leukemia, and she had to leave Power Rangers to get that taken care of. So naturally, the show needed a new Pink Ranger. Initially, Cassie was supposed to be the new Pink Ranger. Storyline-wise, Kendricks sacrificed herself for Cassie, so Cassie taking her place, it makes sense. But the problem is that Saban was being a nice guy and paying for Valerie Vernon's leukemia treatments. He did this by leaving her in the credits, that way she could still get money and all that stuff, which is very nice. The problem with that is that the new Pink Ranger, Cassie, was going to be paid less. She was supposedly supposed to be being paid like a guest appearance fee, which is a cameo fee, which is less than what the main cast makes. However, she was going to be a main cast member. So because of Saban's cheapness, and just a quick tangent, Power Rangers was on the brink of cancellation. Remember this, Power Rangers for years was doing terribly, and it was in space, the season with Patricia Jolie, Cassie, who was a part of that made this thing, Power Rangers, able to exist again. So it's just like a double slap in the face to be like, I'm not gonna pay you. Like that's really uncool. Shocker, Saban does something uncool. But yeah, as originally filmed, Cassie would have stayed on Terra Venture at the end of the episode, and forging a friendship was written to follow that. So here's the script for that episode, if Cassie stayed. The story. Cassie is joined up as a GSA cadet, and Kai gives her everything she needs, including a GSA uniform. Cassie shows off the uniform to Maya, who is very cold to her. Cassie tries to hang out, but Maya declines, preferring to go to the megaship. She tells Cassie she's glad she's here, but I just don't know if I'm ready for a new friend yet. Cassie hangs with Kai, Leo, Damon at the Comic Cafe and tries to figure out what's going on with Maya. The guys reassure her that everything will be fine. It's just that Maya's not only lost her world, but her best friend. Cassie decides to give her a hand on the megaship. On the megaship, Alpha's work is interrupted when Shurkina, Deviot, Kegler, and some Stingwingers, as well as a new monster, break into the ship. Alpha is captured, and Kegler manages to deactivate Deca. They're going to steal the megaship. Cassie manages to get on the megaship just before it takes off. Shurkina discovers the Rangers are on board and sends her monsters after them. Cassie manages to save a cornered Maya, and the two rush to get control of the ship back. Cassie once again saves Maya from being discovered by the Stingwingers and Buzz. Stan puts the colony on red alert when the Scorpion Stinger appears, but lowers his guard when the megaship flies in. Shurkina fires on the colony and destroys one of the connecting tubes. Cassie works as fast as she can to splice the wires in the ceiling just over the bridge, where Shurkina manages to save Terra Venture from another blast. Maya and Cassie are discovered in the ceiling and get away as the megaship tumbles, no longer under Shurkina's control. The two morph and fight Buzz, who accidentally unleashes toxic gas that forces Shurkina and the other monsters to retreat. Buzz attacks the colony and has Leo, Damon, and Kai on the ropes when Maya and Cassie arrive just in time to save them. The full team activates the Lights of Orion and takes Buzz out, but of course he grows. The team forms the Galaxy Megazord, and with the help of Stratoforce, they defeat Buzz. The team is in the park, the guys playing football as Maya apologizes to Cassie. They decide to play a joke on the guys and spray them with a hose, which I'm pretty sure happens in the episode with Corone. It ends with everyone laughing, the script specifically pointing out the two girls can't help but become friends. So that's very nice. And then here's the follow-up of what I just said. Instead of Patricia Jolie, they got Melody Perkins, who was kind enough to take on the role as the new Pink Ranger. You know, this is one of those things where, like, story-wise, it makes sense for Cassie to become the new Pink Ranger. You know, Kendrick sacrificed herself. But I don't know. Like, this episode sounds pretty good, but it is kind of the typical, like, the Pink and Yellow Ranger need to be best friends forever. And, you know, Cassie already has kind of a character. Corone doesn't have a character yet. She was Astronema, now she's good. What now? Now we get to discover that. So in a weird way, as thematically appropriate as it would have been, and how interesting this would have been, of course, for sure to have Cassie return, I think the better option was what we got. Saban made the better choice, but not because of any real choice that he made. It was just his cheapness kinda worked out. So it is really interesting, honestly. Now, canceled episodes are one thing, but how about canceled seasons? With the infamous and very ambitious Power Rangers Hexagon. So, some backstory. In 2002, Power Rangers Wild Force had the anniversary episode, Forever Red. It was a unique crossover, heavily focusing on lore and having an overall serious tone with the Rangers' dialogue, action, and premise. It had a very special vibe to it. The writer of that episode was a man named Amit Bhawmik. He's a fan of the series and had a grander vision of what the franchise could really be. So when Wild Force came to an end, he pitched his idea for the next season. It would still adapt Hurricaneger. Hexagon would follow an organization where teams of Power Rangers would come together under one umbrella, kinda like the Avengers to put it simply. This organization would be called Hexagon. Hexagon would act as the team's command center, and would most likely have cameos of other Rangers, hanging out or working there to help the new team. Hexagon would also be known to the public, a government agency of sorts, meaning the secret identities of these Rangers would no longer be a thing. The leader of Hexagon would of course be none other than Tommy Oliver. It's important to note Hexagon was supposed to act as a bit of a sequel to Forever Red, meaning when Amit Bhawmik wrote that episode, he already had Hexagon in mind. It's why in Forever Red, Tommy was able to contact the other Rangers and bring them together, while also spewing Zordon quotes, establishing himself as the new Power Rangers leader. We'd follow our new 3 Rangers as Hexagon's newest recruits, naturally being led by Tommy. They would travel all throughout the Power Rangers universe, be it Angel Grove, Miranoi, KO35, Silver Hills, Mariner Bay, Turtle Cove, you name it. If it existed in the Power Rangers universe, Hexagon would be there to fight, being flown there on a special helicopter piloted by Joel. The villains would consist of a semi-faction involving Prince Gasket, Archerina, Scorpina, and Lokar, as well as whatever scraps of the Machine Empire still remain. Naturally, this villain faction doesn't sound very threatening. And that was kind of the point. There was supposed to be such a power imbalance that the villains would never stand a chance against this united group of Rangers. So where exactly does the conflict come in? Well, in the form of the Thunder Rangers, or the Beetle Rangers as they're referred to here. These would be Rangers that would go against Hexagon, not agreeing with this government-mandated Power Rangers team. What's interesting to note is that apparently they would also push to create a new Ranger, essentially a Yellow Thunder Ranger to even out the team and also add another girl. These Thunder Rangers would have a bit more of an edge to them, being anti-authority and rebellious, but still fighting the good fight, with Jason taking on the role as their mentor. Jason was also meant to be given more of an edge. Amit Bhawmik stated that in Forever Red, it was hinted that Jason was riding his motorcycle on the outskirts of town, being years since anyone has last seen him. In Forever Red, he was brass and not afraid to speak his mind, seemingly giving Wes and Eric specifically the cold shoulder. Jason would be against the idea of a government Power Rangers team and would act more as a big brother to the Thunder Rangers, having completely different mentoring styles to how Tommy would mentor his team, which was most likely by the book and being a goody two-shoes. Of course, there would be other Ranger teams that would side with Jason. For example, possibly any team of alien Rangers, such as the Equitians, the Phantom Ranger, Andros and Zane, the Galaxy Rangers, anyone that wasn't specifically inhabiting Earth. They would all of course team up to fight a monster or any force that was threatening Earth, but that's where their cooperation would mostly end. Naturally, the Green Samurai Ranger would need to debut as well. Bhawmik stated that the suit looked so similar to Mighty Morphin's Green Ranger that it was impossible to not make it Tommy. Yeah, 1 year before Dino Thunder, the plan was to have Tommy be a mentor and active ranger in this season. According to sources, Tommy would eventually become the main villain, and the veteran rangers working for Hexagon would disagree with this imbalance, slowly leaving one by one, with Tommy being the only one who was devoted to Hexagon. And the Wind Rangers needed to fight their mentor to see the error of his ways. It's a bold choice to make Tommy the villain, but it also makes tons of sense. Tommy has always been corrupted by evil forces to become an evil ranger, but here, he would now be corrupted by his own forces. His own power trip that would make him so stubborn and refusing to believe Hexagon could be bad. Eventually, they'd beat Tommy to his senses and he'd apologize, disbanding Hexagon and letting the Power Rangers take care of the universe however they see fit. This storyline is very similar to Marvel's Civil War, two factions of good guys going against each other. However, Power Rangers Hexagon's concept was done years before Civil War was even a thing. As cool as Hexagon sounds, we all kinda knew this was never gonna happen. It is way too ambitious for what the TV series was offering at the time. You'd have to pay so many actors to return and ideally make consistent appearances. Not only that, but film tons of original footage that would eat up the budget. And mind you, this was the first season under the Disney umbrella. Disney literally moved production to New Zealand to save money. A project like this would be so cool for the fans, but sadly couldn't be a reality for the time. There were tons of plans, like finally showing the identity of the Phantom Ranger, explaining the science behind Terra Venture's technology. There was a plan for the Silver Guardians, Toxica and Gingerak now being a part of a traveling circus. Essentially, Any kind of lore, unanswered questions, or unfinished storylines would wrap up and get a bow nicely tied on them. To give a true finale to the Saban era and Power Rangers lore as a whole at the time. To allow the next season of Power Rangers a true fresh start, not needing to worry about previous seasons and loose ends. Inevitably, after changing up the entire production crew and moving to New Zealand, the California crew was dropped and Hexagon was no more. Amit Bhawmik was eventually interviewed about returning to the Hexagon concept in current day, with him saying, absolutely not. Here's an excerpt. Too much time has passed to warrant revisiting characters from the earliest seasons to justify a season like this. That's not to say older characters could never come back to the show again, just not with the frequency and depth that the Hexagon season intended to do. The real question, in my mind, is finding the right balance of long-term and short-term considerations and adapting to the times in which we find ourselves. It's like Muhammad Ali said, a man who views the world at 50 the same as he did when he was 20 has wasted 30 years of his life. Ideas change, and just as a continuous multi-season storyline eventually required a change to annual rebooting, might someday even the idea of annual rebooting require yet another change? Back to a new continuous multi-season storyline to keep from becoming stagnant? Some food for thought. As of recording this, there's news of a new Disney Power Rangers show that's a reboot. Yet again, starting over. Power Rangers is no stranger to reboots, so maybe, just maybe, what the show needs today is to flesh out the world that's already been given to us in the past 30 years. If there's one thing we learned today, it's that some media is lost for a reason. But sometimes, maybe, these things were lost years ago and were meant to be found today. Some food for thought.